Right, new video today on ID Buzz and the audio of it. So you're here because you've seen the title says this ID Buzz needs more bass or something along those lines. Some sort of clickbait, I'm sure. If you've followed any of our ID Buzz series, you'll know that when I first drove this back, I liked the audio. I thought was particularly good for what it was, but it definitely could be improved considering what I was used to in my T6.1 having a full Alpine audio upgrade. In the last episode, Mitch set about doing a great job soundproofing and installing all the audio and a full Alpine audio system in this. Looked great install. Everything sounded good apart from the sub sounded terrible. Nothing to do with the product or the install. The problem was, and I blame Ollie from Bogner Motors for this and his team, we'd seen that Bogner Motors had done their Buzz, worth checking out if you've not already seen it around, and they'd put the sub underneath the rear seat. Seemed to make plenty of sense because there's lots of dead space there, lots of empty areas that we decided we were going to put things like the air install, the compressors and stuff, and the management when we come to put this on air suspension in a very soon episode. There was a space there that looked really good for possibly fitting the sub where Ollie had done it or where the Bogner Motors team had done it. What actually happened was, so we got our friend Sunil to create a perfectly built sub box for that space, exactly the right size. He did a great job. He made a few alterations for us because of depth and getting the seats to fit, and it was a work of art really. The downside was what we were trying to do was make a sub fit a space and not build a box that suited the sub. So the box just was too small for the sub that we'd gone for, and it was too close to the bottom, and it just made the sub sound terrible, which is a real shame because I was super excited about this sounding as good as my T6.1. No fault of the product, no fault of the install, it's just that space wasn't right. So then we kind of looked into other options about installing subs in spaces at the back, but the downside you have, especially with these modern vehicles, is there are lots of plastic to them, and when you start putting subs in, they start to rattle and vibrate, which is, you can over sub a vehicle, and I've done it. If you followed this for a while, some of my previous vans have had massive 2 12-inch subs in them, and the bass is incredible, but you can't avoid the fact that things just vibrate, and it just takes away that pleasure of the sound. I love a bit of bass.
By the power of rock.
Love a bit of drum and bass, love listening to some music with bass, whatever genre it would be. Mitch on the other side hates bass.
Fall for you.
So that's where we differ very much. So he'd just turn the sub right down, but it has to be right and it has to be bassy. So recently, Paul from Vibe Audio was here because of a few things they've done that's bespoke for the Transporter, and we got talking to him and he said, I've got a solution for that. Come and see us and we can sort that out for you. So that's where we plan to go today and see what those guys could do, see if they're people of their word and they can sort out the bass for this ID Buzz for me. So disclaimer here, said the word Vibe Audio to me and I thought Halford's product. If I'm totally honest, they'll hate me for saying that, but here's the picture. 17-year-old virgin. My first car was a Beetle and I'm desperate to impress the girl, desperate to find the girl that I need as a 17-year-old guy, never having had a girlfriend. And what's the first thing you do? You go to Halford's and you buy yourself a Rip Speed CD player. And a nice vibe sub to stick in the back, so my beat was rattling and vibrating and sub bass coming everywhere to try and attract the ladies. Didn't work, just so you know, but that was just the kind of the thought process I had back then, as I'm sure many young lads do, and that was where I kind of saw the Vibe brand. Things have changed so much since back then. So Vibe have been around for 30 years this year, and in that year they've adapted and moved with the industry, and they've realised that there's a big gap in the market for for bespoke Volkswagen products and especially Transporter products. So they've brought a whole range out based around kind of a plug and play kit for the Transporter, and they'll continue to for other vehicles. So we've decided at Transporter HQ here, we really want to up our audio game. Mitch is a genius when it comes to audio, knows his stuff really well. Whereas it's something that we've never been massively comfortable with amongst the rest of the team. We've specialised too much in other areas, but having Mitch on board has made us able to look at developing our collection and our selection, give us the ability to offer many other brands and offer information and support that you need when you're installing audio, whether it's to the trade, to the conversion companies, or whether it's to the general public. But anyway, so that's where we're going now. So we're going over to Vibe. Hopefully we get to see their Transporter that's mental. I've seen it at shows before and it's crazy what that thing can do bass wise. They're going to sort me out with some decent stuff for this that hopefully complements the rest of the system. Can listen to the music the way I want to, as loud as I want to, and hopefully I can annoy Mitch all the way back with some really loud bassy music. He'll probably bring a set of earplugs with him so he doesn't have to listen to it. But there we go, let's head off to those guys now. Right, so here we are at Mid-Bass, or Vibe Audio. They've just shown us around and it's pretty impressive, so I'm going to go and have a wander around and show you their showroom. But after having several conversations with them, these guys are all talking audio, which means nothing at all to me. I just don't understand it all. But Mitch is there, yabbering away using Audio Talk, and these guys seem to be geniuses. Or they could just be fobbing me off because I've got no idea. But they sound like they know what they're doing. We've decided where everything's going to go and what we're going to put in it. So we're going to put in the sub box that we currently do for the Transporter, a great bit of kit, and we're going to explain why. I think the reason why we decided to do that is because it's a bit of kit that it's available, so we can show you how simple it is to install it. I showed you earlier, well, I explained earlier where we fitted the sub. Going back to the original build, we didn't have a multi-flex board. So this being an edition 1, first edition, whatever they call it, it doesn't come with a multi-flex board. So we've ordered this in and fitted this. Mitch has done that for me. So what we're going to do is mount the sub box under there perfectly, because this is kind of a real dead space. This multi-flex board is a great bit of kit in the way it lifts up, and all that space there, very removable, but it's kind of dead space. So we're going to put the sub under there, but we'll go through that in a bit more detail. But one thing we have been asked for quite a few times is how you fit a multi-flex board in a first edition. So Mitch had explained briefly what you had to do.
So they're actually really simple to install. The threads are already in the chassis of the vehicle. So all we've got to do is measure where we need to drill the holes in the factory carpet, and then you've got these threaded screws which obviously lock the multi-flex board in place to secure it. So it's literally very simple. Best way of doing it, just for measuring, is if you take the side panel out, you can then lift the carpet out of the vehicle, flip it over, and you can actually see there's pretty much where the hole is to be drilled is sort of marked. We can show you sort of exactly where it goes and put a dot and make it really obvious. But yeah, you just drill the hole with an 8mm drill bit, pop your board back in and screw it in. Really, really simple.
So we may do a template in future. Mitch just suggested that just to make it easier, but it's really easy to fit. And a few people asked the question whether it didn't look like the factory fittings are there. Well, they're underneath this. They are, the thread is already underneath there, so they will fit in a first edition. These are expensive, that's the thing from VW. I think a couple of people have already made an aftermarket version one, but it changes this whole space. It's so much more usable having the multi-flex board. Yes, we can put a sub under it, but it just gives you this extra available space, and you want to be able to store your cables in one of these. That's my opinion of that anyway. So yeah, we'll do something in the future where we possibly start selling these, and we'll sell them with a template to make it easier for you. But the question is, if you have a first edition, yes, the fitting's already there, you've just got to drill through the board. Right, so while we're here, I'm going to show you around briefly. So this thing here is incredible. I heard this at Ultimate Dubs just before COVID, and it's got a support there to support the windscreen, because the bass in it is ridiculous. Whole windscreen shakes and people's hair shaking, and you can balance a bottle of water in the air. It's ridiculous. They've just showed us this little caddy. Again, sounds incredible for what it is. Such a small thing, gives us such an output. Crazy impressive. If we're going to wander this way to the showroom, I think this is the right way. So this is what these guys do. They have so much going on. So Midbase is the distributor for a few brands. Ground Zero, Vibe Audio, obviously, British Audio. Everything's designed in-house here. We'll show you the hand manufacture of the sub boxes. It's all done physically in-house here. A few of the brands they do, Edge. These displays you'll recognise from their days at Halfords and stuff that they do, which they still are involved in. Transporter speaker setup there, which we'll have in our showroom, and Transport HQ Europe will have in their showroom too, just to show you what's available from Vibe. So going back a bit of a story, Vibe were known really for bass. That's how I always knew them as. I knew it was the place you went to if you wanted a big ass sub. But where Vibe realised they needed to kind of get themselves in the market is they were known really well for sub, but take what they knew from that and then make components as well that weren't with that heavy bass focus. Yes, everybody knows them as a bass brand, but they make really good components, give a crystal clear sound. But to compete with the big players of the world, the Sonys and stuff, they needed to make a better product for less money. So their range, these is like a standard cheap off the shelf kind of 25-30 quid Halford speaker, which is a big upgrade from standard, but they do so much more. Where we'll be putting our transport related products in with them is the high-end stuff, but without the high-end price tag. So really impressive setup. Like I said, British company. We'll show you the build process and show you the transporter subs, which is what's going in the ID Buzz. So I'm just going to run you through here, show you what's going in. So this is where all the boxes are custom handmade in the UK here. So these are all dedicated transporter boxes, all custom made on this bench individually by hand. Here's a bunch of stock we're collecting, and then the unit itself that's going to go in this one. So how they come is like this, really easy to install. All the instructions on how to install, everything you need, plug and play looms, amplifier and everything is all there, and then there's the box. So it comes with all the brackets for a transporter, so you can remove these little feet and you can fit these brackets here, and then you can mount it in the seat base. Just thought I'd show you that quickly while those guys are doing that, and show you the setup and how they're all built here in-house. I'm going to go through in detail why, all the benefits of this box and why it works so well in the ID Buzz, but also in the transporter application shortly. But I just thought it'd be worth while seeing them in production here. Right, so I thought we'd get Robin to help explain this lot, because I'm a complete audio novice, don't understand it all, but I know this thing looks good, which means a lot to me. It's got to sound good. But in speaking to Paul, who's hiding behind the camera there, doesn't get on the camera, he was kind of talking about explained about this passive radiator and why you get such good sound out of that. So I thought we'd better off breaking it down, and Rob's going to explain the benefits and why this little sub box can sound so good in a transporter, whether it's under the seat or wherever else you mount it, or like we're mounting it in the ID Buzz. So Rob, help me out, explain what we've got here.
So we have a smorgasbord of products here for you. Obviously it's a bass enclosure, so straight away we're starting with a subwoofer. Now as you can see, it's a fairly flat, slimline, low profile affair. This allows us to keep the actual enclosure fairly minimal. The other bonus with this, of course, is that it doesn't need a particularly big box or a lot of air to work and sound good. Now next to him is his little friend, the passive radiator, and it's kind of the two together that kind of make the magic of this little enclosure. Okay. There's many people made these kind of compact, small form factor enclosures just with try to engineer a little subwoofer that will do everything for you. And unfortunately, there comes a point where you kind of reach the ceiling of the laws of physics. So we took a bit of a different approach with ours, in that what we have is, in this particular case, this is a 10-inch driven subwoofer. And then your passive radiator, if we just take the grill and the gasket away for a moment, this is kind of all there is to it. It's a deceptively simple thing, but what you basically have is a traditional subwoofer surround, you have a traditional subwoofer cone, but then what we actually also have is a weight on the back of it, so that this has a decent amount of mass, and obviously we engineer it. Mass here matches what we need to do with the subwoofer. Now, why would you use one of these? And a lot of people, they kind of don't really understand them. So what this does in essence, it replaces the function of a port in a ported box. Now we've all seen boxes. Vibe obviously as a company stands for Vented Innovative Bass Enclosures. We kind of wrote the rule book on ported boxes. That was kind of our gig since like 1993. Now what a passive radiator does that's different to a port works in phase with the subwoofer, and it creates, again, it has mass and volume to it. Now with ports, you tune them to a specific frequency, otherwise it gives you a bump in your frequency response, which is why, if you don't do it carefully, ported boxes, when you play music through them, jazz will sound the same as rock, sound the same as hip hop, because it all keeps peaking at the same kind of frequencies. Now what a passive radiator does, that basically replaces the function of a port, in that, again, it gives us, it radiates sound, as the name would suggest, in phase with the subwoofer, again, as a port would work. The difference with a passive radiator is it gives you a much wider frequency band, which allows us to get a deeper, more natural response. In other words, it sounds more like a subwoofer than just a subwoofer with NOS on it, which is what a port does, for want of a better way of describing it. So the way we arrange this is we have the passive radiator on top of the enclosure, and if you flip him around, the subwoofer goes on the bottom, again downward firing, so that actually loads, or again adds weight effectively to the front of the cone to give you a deeper, more powerful bass response.
But this can be run the other way around, can't it?
It can go either way. The reason we do that is it's protected if it's down firing, and you'll see that pop in a lot of home cinema subwoofers where it's a floor firing device. It again makes the bass less directional, because it gives you a better spread.
Got it, great. This box is the transporter specific one, although it can be used in various different ways.
The only thing that actually makes this transporter specific is that we have a bracket set for it that bolts it directly into the seats using the original mounts. Okay. But it can be used in any vehicle, anything obviously where you need a low profile small platform.
Got it. And the kit form comes with these bits here. So
yeah, you do a complete kit. So obviously we have the subwoofer and the passive radiator mounted in an enclosure, as you see with the terminal. We then have a little 400 watt micro mono amplifier, class D, so it's nice and efficient, doesn't need a lot of current, a lot of power to actually run. To the point where we do two kits for these. We do an ISO kit, which literally, as it sounds, just plugs in on the vehicle's ISO, and if you're running the amplifier at 4 ohms, that allows you to do that. Or we have the rapid kit, which comes with the signal cable, out ground, and the power cable, which plugs directly into your fuse box. If you're running at 1 ohm and you want to get the full power from that amplifier, that just plugs into a spare fuse slot to make the installation nice and easy, nice and fast.
Perfect. So making it nice and easy and simple for install. Looks good. Most importantly, it sounds good. First time I heard one of these in a transporter, I actually thought, I just couldn't quite believe how clear and crystal and just how well it sounded for a box of that size. And it wasn't until I started asking the questions that I understood how you could get such a good quality sound out of something so small. So these are available now on our website for transporter, and as you'll see, we're going to head back out to the Buzz now and show one of them being installed under the multi-flex board in the ID Buzz. So there we go, all done. So let me just take you in a bit closer and show you. It's all hidden away nicely. So if you do have a multi-flex board, if you're not fitting in the front of a transporter, we've hidden it nicely under there. So they've done a really smart job. So they've velcroed the individual feet down just for security, and they've built a little bracket for us just to attach it to one of the legs for the front section of the multi-flex board. So that's not going anywhere, and it sounds incredible. Honestly, super impressed with it. can't thank the guys at Vibe Audio enough for the hard work they've done. They're all hiding behind the cameras and stuff, and Mitch, of course, Mitch for all his hard work, always stripping the dash and doing all the horrible bits that nobody else wants to do with his massive sausage fingers, but very much appreciated. So now I get the pleasure of driving this home with really loud bass just to annoy Mitch, because he didn't bring his headphones and he hates bass. So he's gonna have his noise cancelling earbuds in, I think, while I listen to my lovely bass at my Vibe Audio sub box. So hope you enjoyed the video. We'll do plenty more features on the whole Vibe range dedicated to, and more specifically around the transporter as opposed to the ID Buzz, but we just wanted to show you a bit more about the equipment, a brief overview of what's coming, and how it can work in other applications as well. Please do like that video, share it with anybody that might be interested in anything audio related for a transporter. Subscribe to the channel to get notifications when more videos are coming. Like I said, more videos on Vibe Audio and audio in general, and lots of other stuff coming. More videos on the ID Buzz, Crafter, you name it. Air suspension on this is going on very soon. That'll be well worth a watch. Got some sexy wheels to go on it for that. And as always, thanks for watching. So right, this is the bit ordinary where I'd like to film me playing with the settings and showing you how good it sounds, but there's two reasons why we can't do that. Firstly, because the sound quality won't come across on the YouTube video, and secondly, because YouTube seems to hate any bit of music we play and says it's copyright, so we can't do it. Rich has done a really good job. He sat here with me. We've played with the settings on this, we've played with the settings on the amplifier. Now, you don't have to have a bass sub, or you don't have to have a sub to have really deep bass if you don't want to. Obviously, this is a people carrying vehicle. It's a car built for comfort, and you don't want to have loads of bass, loads of subs going really loud in the back and deafening your kids, or not making it a comfortable drive. I probably like more bass than average, so we've tuned it accordingly. This isn't a bass bus. This isn't designed to go to shows and be vibrating and rattling all over the place. This is designed for comfort and designed for sound quality. And this sub with the passive radiator gives you that ability to have that really crystal clear sound and have that nice bass sound. But if you want to turn it right down, you can turn it down and just have a little amount of it. If you want to turn it up, you can turn it up and have loads of bass. Like I said, I probably like more than your average person, but my type of music I like listening to, drum and bass and that kind of thing, lends itself to have a really bassy sound. But playing with the settings, tuning it down, making it nice, you can get it exactly how you want. A sub isn't just for wanting heavy bass. You can tune it so you have nice clear sound with the amount of bass that suits you.